Hey, it's Diane with My Sacred Circles. Who is up for a challenge? Summer is coming and it is the easiest time to do a 100-mile challenge. So, several years ago, I had tried this and I had so much fun. This was the 100-mile diet, and it's you eat everything within 100 miles for 100 days. So, we planned, this required a lot of planning on where are we going to get grains and what are we going to do in place of sugar and things like that. And we did all of our little sourcing for getting a half cow and splitting it with a friend, and got all our resources together and joined a CSA, and we decided we were going to start the challenge when the CSA started. And I have to say, it was an interesting experience, and I would like to try it again, and I'd like to invite you guys to try it. And I can tell you a little bit of what to expect. So, one of the things is you have to, at this time we were deciding we were going to do 100 days and 100 miles. That's what eating locally was for us, and that was the time frame that we were trying. And it was inspired by this book, and there was a TV show that went along with it. It was, I think, 6 episodes. It was a couple in British Columbia, and Alisa Smith and J.B. McKinnon. Plenty, eating locally on the 100-mile diet. So this book is written like a journal, and they did it for an entire year, which was crazy because it was February, and they were 100% sourcing. And if you think about things like March, you're running out of your supplies. And so even if you had supplies for February, by the time you're hitting March, it's like nothing's grown yet, that kind of thing. So this was a really interesting book to read. And when I read that around the same time, and I'm not sure which I read first, I read Animal Vegetable Miracle. And this was Barbara Kingsolver, but really it was her husband and her daughter. And one of the things I really liked about this is about the reasons you would eat locally. But Barbara writes it in the same kind of way, where it's like a journal, but her husband is like an environmental scientist, I believe, and his sections would be little inserts where he would go over facts. And so he would do inserts of factoids, and the daughter would write things like, the recipes that they would use and stuff. So it was really, Camille, it was very interesting. I liked how it was broken up, because if you just wanted to look up facts, you could look up facts. If you just wanted to look for a recipe, you could, look for a recipe, like zucchini chocolate chip cookies, or something like that. Now they were not exclusively local. Like this couple, they were exclusively hardcore. This couple promoted, why you would want to eat more sustainably, more local foods, and why some people can't in certain areas. And then to support me during this process, I got Simply in Season. So one of the places where we got our grains in our local area back in near Pittsburgh, this was, I don't know if it's still in print, but it is a season by season cookbook. And so it's separated out by, like in the very beginning, it'll have the type of foods where you look up which kind of food and it'll say how to prepare, those foods like microwave, stove, baking. And then it goes, spring, all of your foods that you would have in spring, and they'd be recipes based on what's available at that time. And then it would go summer, fall, and then after that, it goes to winter, and then it goes to, I believe, like let's see, hold on, to all seasons, and those would be things like dairy, dry beans, dried fruits, meats, nuts, seeds, tofu, and tempeh, and whole grains. So it goes through the entire year, different things that you can have in different seasons, and it really helped us a lot. Now again, this does not exclusively have all of your ingredients being 100% sourced, during that season, but it is based on like what's in season, sort of trying to eat the foods of the season during that time and building the meal around it. So when we did this, we went full in with one exception. In our CSA, every now and then we would get bread or cookies, and they were homemade using many local ingredients, but obviously things like sugar and stuff were not, and we didn't know exactly what went in it, like baking powder, baking soda, that kind of stuff, like yeast. Those things would not have been local option. So those were the few things that every now and then were in our box, and we treated ourselves to that. Otherwise, we went the whole 100 days without anything from outside. No tea. Like if you had tea, it was, you were taking mint leaves or something like that. You were making herbal teas. We don't drink coffee, so we didn't have to worry about coffee. Sugar, brown sugar, we replaced with a maple syrup. It was like a dehydrated maple syrup sugar. We substituted things like, sugar with honey and maple syrup, and sweetened things, like you use things like applesauce or something like that, So we substituted different foods, and it was like you didn't have salt or pepper. I remember trying to figure out, could we get salt from, we were going somewhere one time. It's like, should we get salt from the ocean? Because at the time that would have been local. So wherever we were was local eating. And if we brought it back with us, it was still considered like a local food that we had and we weren't going to waste. So it was such a fun experiment. And some of the things you just don't think about are like baking soda and baking powder. Like when breakfast foods were our favorites, and if you don't have stuff for your pancakes, we found that you can take the egg, divide it in half, whip up the egg whites, put it back in and do the pancakes without the baking powder or whatever, you know. So little tricks and stuff to help us still have a lot of the same foods that we liked, and a lot of experimentation, throwing a lot of foods together. And we realized a lot of the things that you think go together, like your salad with your peppers, you know, your lettuce is coming at the beginning of the year and the peppers are coming at the end. And you're just like, you know, when you're trying to buy it locally already, it doesn't always match up. And so you start to realize what grows when. And it was so fun, and sometimes it was frustrating, and I think that was actually part of the fun part of it, was the creativity that comes out of it when you're trying to figure something out. It's like necessity, you know, the mother of invention, you know. So came up with some off-the-cuff recipes that we still use today, and so I wanted to offer up a challenge, and we're going to do this again. And we were thinking about doing it shorter than 100 days this time, but we wanted to open this up to everyone and see who would like to join us. Couple resources that you're going to want to look into right now before it starts, and we'll start this in June, would be looking for farmers markets in your areas, local farms in your areas, any CSAs that you may wish to join, any areas that you can forage. We went to the school up near us. It was just a block up the street. They had mulberry trees. And so we would go up and we would get mulberry berries. Sometimes we would get wild blueberries on some hiking trails. And, you know, you want to look and have some fun. It really opens your world up to having fun around food and doing it in a sustainable, eco-friendly way. And it really connects you to nature, the seasons, you know, your food, and, you know, just the community. So it's really an interesting challenge. So, and sometimes people want to extend this, and if you want to extend it beyond, like Alisa Smith and J.B. McKinnon, when they did it for the whole year, you would be looking at, during this time, wanting to, you know, get foods when they're in peak. You know, you'd want to be freezing and canning and dehydrating, and you know, the ways that you can best store them so that you can prolong them. And then you may also wish to look at what are some exceptions that you're just not willing to give up, you know. And if you have any slip-ups and you don't just give up, like New Year's Eve, you know, resolutions. You don't just say, oh, I was going to do that this year and I missed a day or I missed a week or whatever, and so you don't do it for the whole year. Well, it's something you wanted to do, so hop back on the wagon, you know. So, like, you know, just forgive yourself and move on, and allow yourself some of those little hiccups. So anyway, I hope you join me, and I will put in some of the links so that you know some of the resources and how to contact me. And if you have any questions, write me at diane@mysacredcircles.com.